Take the clock a second. Okay. Okay. All right. Hey, I think all right. We are live. Hey, this is Thurman. Hey, Clean Freaks podcast, of course, hosted at S&M Cleaning Service. Hey, we have a special guest today. We have Ron, Papke. I'm sorry, Ron. I missed. Got tongue twisted there. Hey, if you would, if you would introduce yourself and the name of your business and everything.
Yeah, I'm Ron Papke with QCC in the Cleaner Academy here in Michigan City, Indiana. That's northern Indiana, close to Gary, Indiana. Most people have heard of Gary. They haven't heard of Michigan City, though.
Never heard of it. I've heard of Gary. Definitely heard of Gary. Never heard
Yeah.
of it. Uh, hey, and if you would, you tell us a little bit about your business, just and maybe a little background about yourself.
So been doing this since I was 23. That's 19 years. So that makes me a whopping 42. I'm getting up there in my age.
Yeah.
And so been doing this 19 years, and we started off as quality carpet care, and that's where the QCC comes from. And then we started rebranding in 2015 because we started offering a lot more services, and I didn't want people to think just carpet cleaning. So we started branding just QCC, and we still have some of our really old time customers refer to us as quality carpet care. But I think for the most part, everybody knows QCC. And I want people to think we clean everything. Give them a call, they clean it.
That's something. And I started my business. I guess I was I think 20, 23, 24. So and I around the in that same time period, I guess.
Hey, when you're 23, you got all that energy to work. My longest shift was 36 hours.
hmm
That was a
Really.
long, but I made it through. What I used to do, and I know most people don't work this kind of length of time, but what I used to do is I would carry powder and two packs of underwear in my lunchbox, so that throughout the day, you get sweaty, and then midday after 8 hour shift, you could change into another pair of underwear, and now you're feeling like a whole brand new man. And then you would do that again after another 8 hours. Now I know most people aren't crazy enough to work that kind of hours, but I was
Mhm.
willing to do whatever it took to be a successful business owner. So
I've
how was
I,
you
I've
putting
done similar
work?
situations before. I've worked a little bit over 24 hours before on a floor job before, slept in the took a nap in the car and went right back at it. So yeah, when you're
Yeah,
young like that, I tell everybody it's best to get that out of the way when you're young.
I
Yeah, get
remember
back to
way back then. I went to Georgia to buy some equipment off eBay,
it.
and I stayed in the back of my SUV to save that $150 from a hotel room. But that's what you got to do when you don't have a lot of revenue. You got to do whatever it takes to get ahead. Whether it's saving, working more hours, whatever it takes. So
That's right, and I definitely believe it's best to get it out the way when you're young. The younger, the better. Get it out the way.
right.
What gave you the idea of starting your business?
um Yeah, so there was something as a young man, as when I was selling drugs, me and the guy that got me selling drugs, we would stay up till wee hours in the morning, talking about how one day we would go legit. And
Mhm.
for some reason, I thought I had this number in my head that I thought if I had $30,000, I could start my own business, right? You don't know. So when I was a young kid, young punk kid, I thought I could just need to hustle long enough to have the 30 grand to start my business. That's not how it went down. But and I guess since you asked that question, we'll talk about how it went down.
Please.
When I was 20, I was 21. I lost both of my jobs. One went out of business, and one I got fired from. Right. So I was 21. I wasn't the person I am today, so I didn't have uh, interview skills, sales skills, stuff like this. So I wound up losing my apartment, had to move in with a buddy. Well, my friend was selling drugs. And so within a week, I was selling drugs. And um, we started doing that, and I was really good at it because I didn't partake in the drugs that much. I was just serious about let's make this money, and that was it. And so we would talk till wee hours of the night, and then finally one night a predicament happened. And if you don't remember, if you're older like I'm older,
Oh
they
yes.
had Nextel phones. You remember these? And they
Yes.
had talkie talkie. So he said, "Chirp chirp, Ron, come outside with a gun." So I'm like, "Got it." I grab the gun, go outside. Now here's the thing: there was about 12 people ready to jump this man, and these were his real enemies. Now these weren't my enemies until I came outside with a gun in my hand. And
Mm-hmm.
then they weren't scared of the gun. I had to fist fight a guy with the gun in my hand. And then finally, one of them yelled, "Hey, there's a cops coming or something," and they took off. And every day after that, I couldn't leave the house. And at the time, I was a convicted felon, and I couldn't leave my house without a pistol because these guys were seriously after me after this point. And there was more than 12 of them. There was just 12 of them there that day. But their 12 really turned into like 50 people that were after me after this incident. Before this time, I was affiliate with this man that had these enemies. But now I'm in with them, right? I done pulled a gun out on these
Oh
people.
yeah. Yeah, you locked in.
So at that point, one night they almost caught me lacking, right? That's a term they say that don't be caught lacking. This is the real thing. If you're in this kind of scenery, if you're doing this kind of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one night, sure enough, I didn't have my gun on me, and I was walking home after dark, and I heard this whisper. And I had an alias back there, and we won't talk about that because, well, I don't know, but there's criminal charges that could be pending if people knew who I really was back then. There were
Mm-hmm.
times that people told the cops on me, they told the cops my alias and not my real name because they didn't know my real name. And that's what you do when you're
Mm.
living that type of lifestyle. It was ugly.
That's right.
And so I always wanted this business. I wanted to go legit. We both did. And unfortunately, one night, like we are talking about, uh, the car doors open. Someone whispered my name, my alias name. And I was like, this don't sound right. This don't feel right. I took off running. Before I knew it, I heard 4 car doors open. I didn't even look back to see how many guys got out of that car. And I don't care to this day. I took off running, went up to my apartment, grabbed my heat, came out. They were gone, thankfully, right?
Yes.
And the night happened. Within a short period of time after that, they actually were getting ready to do a drive-by on our house. And what happened is we were out drunk at the bar that night, and when we came home, they were circling the block, getting ready to do a drive-by on the house, and we just caught them in the middle of it. And so we didn't have any heat on us. We had a baseball bat in the car and a couple knives. So we come walking at this car, and next thing you know, they just shoot at us, pop, 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 and nobody gets hit. But we go to the other house we had, and we load up the guns. And guess what? We're drunk and we're dumb. We're dumb as well. So we went back to the scene of the crime, and guess who
Oh
was
yeah.
there? It wasn't them. It was the police.
Mm.
So that particular night changed my life because I got arrested for public intoxication, and the driver of the car took the rap for all the guns. And my buddy, he was on probation, you name it, he was in the mix of some stuff, right? And so I just got arrested for public intoxication. As soon as they told me to step out the car, I got out the car, and boom, that was their charge they got me with. But I'm in the jail cell this night, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, damn, this isn't who I am. I need to get the hell out of this situation. And soon enough, I found somebody that was working at Cedar Point in the
Mm-hmm.
next couple of weeks. And so Cedar Point was 4 hours away. And I'm like, you know what? I'll just go there and work there for the summer. So I went there to get out of town, to get away from this bad situation. And when I come home, all them fools were in prison. Every single one of them guys were in prison. Um, and I started working a regular job. And next thing you know, this little greedy voice popped in my head, says, Ron, start selling drugs. You could be the big man on the block now. So sure enough, I just started selling drugs, and we started moving a lot of weight. And then next thing you know, one of the people, one of my distributors got locked up. And I was so afraid of my life at that point. I'm like, they're probably in the jail cell right now. It's saying Rob Papke, right? They're
Yeah.
in the jail cell telling on me right now. So I'm like, and at this point, I was broke. I had and when you live in that lifestyle, you get summed into buying, like, spending foolish money on clothes and shoes and all types of different stuff, and it's just not a good thing. But so I only had like $2,500 to my name, and I got rid of the rest of the drugs, and I was a different man from that day forth. And what I did with that 2,500 is I bought some lawn equipment, started mowing grass. And what happened was, shortly after that, like a month into it, one of my friends said, "Hey, Ron, can we borrow your truck, because one of our trucks broke down?" And he was working for a company, and for my local people, it was called Avenues. And he was working for this carpet cleaner pump company, and they use portables. And I'm like, "Well, I'll go with you. I'm not that busy right now, you know." And he's like, "Well, let me talk to the boss." So I went out working, and I worked there 2 days. And I asked this kid, I said, "Hey, man, where can I buy a machine like this?" And he's like, "I know somebody that's got one." And we went over there, and it was broke down. And I'll never forget, here's how it went down. The guy wanted $800 for it. So I told him, "I'll give you $300 now and give you $100 a week." And that's what we did. So I picked up that machine. It was a Ninja portable, and it was the dual vac machine. And it wasn't a very great machine, but just enough to get started. I drove that sucker to Indianapolis. That's 3 hours south of us. Took it to a place. They fixed it up, brought it back, and I started hustling carpet cleaning. And next thing you know, that machine was paid off in the first week. And
First week.
a lie. I'll tell you this. Portable, we stayed in the portable game for 14 years because of a lie. And the lie being told by these portable carpet cleaners was this: by the time your truck mount goes inside the home, all those hoses, you lose suction, and my portables got more power than your truck mount. This is a lie believed up until one of my partners that was in the carpet cleaning business. His name's Chad, and he had a company named Go Green. And he said, "Ron, I just bought this truck mount. You got to feel it. You got to experience this." And I'm like, "Really?" And so I went straight to this apartment he was cleaning that and felt the power of this machine and the steam and everything. And I'm like, "I'll get one." Right. And so the finances weren't right, but I put it up on my whiteboard. I said, "You know what? I'm going to have 2 of these things." And sure enough, in 2016, we bought 2 trucks, 2 machines, and we started going at it. And business hasn't been the same ever since. So I'm very grateful for that man for buying that machine and showing it to me. Because if I had that kind of power, I wouldn't have waited 14 years to buy one, you know.
14 years with a portable?
Well, we have multiple portables, but 14 years with portables, you know. And now we still have a portable, but we only use the suck up strip and wax. For stripping the wax is sucking up the wax. That's the only thing we use it for. So if we have to clean something above 3-4 stories, we just go in there and VLM it. We don't have,
that is awesome.
in our area, we live in a very rural area, so we have like 3 condo buildings that are more than 3 stories, and that's it in the whole county, right? So we're not in like a big city or nothing like that where you know you might want to have a couple good portables on your profile.
Man, I really appreciate you sharing that. And one of the reasons that me and my staff, we decided to do this podcast is for some of the youth not to make the same decisions that we made. I did the same thing in my teens and my 20s. I sold drugs. I got in, sold drugs, and the cleaning business was my exit out. My exit out. Got into trouble. And I thank God that was my exit out, and sometimes I know, at least in my neighborhood that I grew up in, a lot of the entrepreneurs that I saw daily were drug dealers, and unfortunately, I repeated that process myself, unfortunately, and thank God today. And that's one of the passions that I have. And, some of my staff as well, that we don't, if something we can do to encourage people, other entrepreneurs, and also to encourage the youth that they don't have to sell drugs, and that you can make it without that and start a business without having to sell drugs or gangs today. That missed my generation. That missed my generation, the gangs. But definitely they can avoid selling drugs.
Right.
Yes. And I noticed on your website, man, I can't think of anything that you don't do. But if you would tell our listeners and what services do you currently offer?
So our main services are air duct cleaning, pressure washing, and when I say pressure washing, a lot of people know it as pressure washing. Some
Hmm.
people know it's soft washing, so we don't always use that word soft washing all the time. We actually don't advertise that because in our rural area, like things spread to us over time, right? We're in the Bible Belt. We're very slow. We're behind the times. So where
Hmm.
soft washing might be popular in California, that term it might be popular there. It's not popular here. So we have to advertise and market for words that are going to be popular here. And the reason, another thing what ties into that is like online booking. We don't offer online booking now in our area,
Hmm.
but if we lived in like a faster paced environment, of California, Washington, and Connecticut, somewhere where things are moving really fast, or even a bigger city, we would offer online booking. And I even had this conversation with my web developer, and I asked him, like, how long do you think before we have to offer that online booking? He's like, Ron, I think you got some time. And I do think we have 5 to 10 years, maybe closer to 5 years. I don't really know. Eventually, we'll adapt to that. And the reason that we don't like to offer online booking is we don't like to advertise pricing. Every situation is so
Oh
unique
yes.
that how can you offer standardized pricing? And removing standardized pricing out of the equation is what made our company profitable to begin with. When I was trying to mimic other cleaners and offering, hey, get these 3 areas cleaned for this amount of money, when I was doing that, I was broke. And here's the thing, it's not good for repeat business. And I'll preach this till I'm blue in the face, because a lot of people aren't successful in their business because of this advertising prices. Because here's the thing, you'll be like, hey, I'll clean 3 areas for $150, right? Well,
Hmm.
an area or a room, if someone's got a big, large open area in their basement, that's one area to them. So they think, all right, I'm getting this area cleaned, and then I want my 2 bedrooms cleaned upstairs for $150. So when you go there and you're like, sir, actually, this one large area, we actually are going to have to consider 2 areas because it's so big. Now that customer's turned off, they'll have you do the work that day, but are you going back? Are they referring you? What's the story they're going to tell about your business? Is the one thing you always have to remember. What's the story they're going to tell? And it's an instant turnoff. So you want to evaluate, you want to ask questions, you don't advertise prices, you want to ask the customer, what rooms are we cleaning for you today? Is it a living room? Is it in your basement? What floor of the house it is on? Is all the carpeting on the same floor? What's your address? We're looking up homes before we're giving them prices, because then we can evaluate the square footage per room and how the technicians are going to be in there and how long the job's going to take. How can I offer you a price if I don't know all these variables? I can't. For example, and I like to talk about this a lot, you could clean a living room and 2 bedrooms in a trailer, a mobile home trailer, single wide. You could be in and out of here in 45 minutes. And that's 3 areas. Or you could go to a home and they could have carpet on the top floor, carpet on the mid level, and carpet in the basement. You might be at
Mm.
that home for 3 hours. How can you charge both the same price?
See that.
Unfortunately, our industry, when it comes to carpet cleaning, people are, if it's working good for somebody, somebody else will just copy it. They'll just freaking copy it. And next thing you know, everyone is advertising these flat rate prices. And again, we stopped doing that in 2011. We just stopped advertising price. You're going to have to call us to get a price. So that's why we don't offer the online booking, because most of the way you set that up is they buy into a price point, right? And
Hmm.
so we don't
Right.
want buying into a price point without knowing all the information, without having a conversation to whether we want to know if we can fix your problem. we might not be able to fix your problem. At that point, no monies need to be exchanged, because if it's going to be a bad story you're going to tell, we don't want to work for you. We might recommend you tear up your carpet. So why would we allow you to book online if we don't know the whole scenario? You know, so that's one thing that's really helped us get to the level of success we are today, is just not advertising any prices. You got to call, because there's so many variables, not only the different areas you're cleaning, but how far is the house or the commercial place from your office? How far do you got to drive? How many technicians are you sending for this particular job? Because now you got to pay those two guys drive time by the hour to get to that job, and you got to factor that into the price. So obviously somebody closer to you is going to be less money. Somebody further away, you have to charge for that. You don't necessarily have to tell them you're charging them extra for that, but you have to charge because you have to pay your employees. You got to be profitable. Some people say, and not me, I won't ever say this, but some people say, well, we don't make a lot of money on this service, but I like to keep my guys busy. If you're not making money, don't do it. There's nothing keeping your guys busy, because guess what? Your truck is going to break down and need some maintenance at some point. Your equipment's going to break down and need some maintenance. So if you're not making a profit, you can't stay in business. And unfortunately, that's why they say a lot of businesses don't last more than 5 years, because people don't know how to manage the property, the price structure good, and then they don't know how to manage the money good, and then their price point is off from the beginning, so they have to readjust that. For example, you have to think about, if I want to pay my secretary $60,000 for the year, and then I have to, and then everybody's getting a Christmas party and a Christmas bonus. Well, now I got to figure that into the profit. Otherwise, we can't have a company Christmas party. We can't have company giveaways if we're not profitable. Now, the more profitable you are, the less petty you have to be with your employees, the more better you can take care of them, the happier they are with their families, and the better your business grows. So key one is be profitable, right? You got to be profitable.
Amen. That's great advice, Ron. I really like that. I never really thought about that and took that in perspective about that. The reason you don't quote prices, that's a lot. That's very good advice. I definitely can see that. Are there any services in the future that you might want to add?
You know, one we keep toying with, and I don't think I will, but
Hmm.
it's been on my mind for a while now, is septic pumping.
Oh,
If you call, like, there's a huge market for septic pumping, and there's room in the marketplace for them. Most of the time in my area, when you call people, they're out 4 to 6 weeks. And so there is a market for that, and it kind of fits in our niche of helping people with their houses, right?
oh
So
yes,
I've talked to a couple of my employees, and they don't like the idea of having to smell all day.
yeah.
But you know, it's a big vacuum truck at the end of the day, no different than our truck mode, only more powerful, it holds more stuff, you know. So that's just an idea I've been toying with. We might not ever get to that, but it's been on my mind. So
I like that, and it goes in line with clean, well, definitely some
right.
cleaning and janitorial. Uh, yeah, and I can tell. So mainly you are in the residential niche.
Yeah, we're about 80. We do 80% of our work is residential, and then 20% is commercial. So we're not going after a lot of commercial contracts where you got to get your prices so low, and
Sure.
you're competing with the bottom of the barrel. And unfortunately, for an owner operator going out and he just needs to make money, put food on the table, that's where most of your restaurant contracts, for example, we used to do a lot of
Hmm.
restaurants, and the price point is so low that you can't afford to do it, you know, and it doesn't
No.
make sense. Nobody really wants to work at night, and that's when you'd have to clean the restaurant. So if you're a new guy starting out in this industry, sure, you could count on, you know, there was restaurants we were doing once a month, every quarter, this type of stuff. But so it's repetitive income, which is nice, but it's a
Mhm.
lower scale repetitive income. It's not highly profitable. So when after you build your business up, you got to say, hey, what contracts can I avoid? We're overbooked here. What can we avoid? And the restaurants and some of the apartment complexes are the first to go, because when you clean for apartment complexes, your rate has to be low as well. The good thing is every week they got vacant units. Every week you're making money. So it's consistent work. I'll tell you, one of my first contracts I ever had was with Rent-A-Center. And we would clean their dirty, nasty furniture after they repoed it. And I would go in there with my little portable, and I would be there all day for like $210.
Oh no.
And it was a nightmare. Your back would be hurting, everything be hurting, but you'd be grateful for that $210 at that point, because it put food on the table, paid the bills.
Amen.
Most of them, you know, and I think back then, if I made 200 in a day, I was doing all right. And that brings me to another point of, I've always been a door-to-door salesman, right? So I didn't know if they had Google ads back then when I was starting out or not, but I didn't know about them if they did. So I would just go door to door, knocking on doors. Hey, I'm Ron, let me clean for you. I'm Ron, let me clean for you. Some people like, hey, I don't need anything done. Some people like, yes. And some people would hire you just because they respect that you're out trying to make an honest living.
That's right.
And so those people would help you get even more business. And what I soon learned is that if you knocked on 20 doors, you could get one person to book with you. And this is in residential area. But if you went knocking on business doors, you could get 1 out of 5. You could make a sale 1 out of 5 stores. Now, when I say sale, this was a tough sale, because what we were selling was, we used to sell $60 car interior cleanings. So we would be at your business. We clean your car interior, shampoo your seats and your floor right then and there for $60. Do 10 a day, that's $600. So some days we weren't working to market for the future. We just needed money today. We need to put money and food on the table today. And we spent a lot of years just making enough money just for today. And if you're serious about quitting your job, there's always a way to make it happen. And you might not be making the numbers you want to make, but it could be more than maybe you're making at your job. If you don't have a lot of people, and that's where my company is a little different. A lot of people don't have a sound pay structure or incentive structure in their business, right? And so in our business, we set up the employees with, they get a hourly pay, they get a monthly profit sharing bonus, they get tips, they get percentage of sales, and a large percentage too. And I'll just say it in a video, but they get 50% of sales. And so most of my people, unless they're newer in the company, most everybody makes over $1,000 a week in my company. And that's one thing I'm proud of, is
that's good money.
And before I started this, you know, I was making $500 or $600 a week, you know, and I understand inflation and everything. And so that 5 or 6 would be like 700 or 800 today. You pay someone more than $1,000 every single week. It's a heartwarming feeling, you know. And so when you incentivize your employees properly, set them up for success like they want, they're not thinking about leaving your company every time they had a bad day. We're going to have bad days. We're going to have undesirable customers. We're going to have undesirable moments. But when they get treated well and they get treated like family, I tell people all the time, they're like, Ron, how do you hire people? I said, listen, we have a waiting list of people that want to join our company. And the one of the keys is always be hiring. If somebody asks you, hey, Ron, are you hiring? Hey, I don't say no or yes. I mean, if we have an immediate opening, I'll say, yeah, we're hiring immediately. But if not, I'll just say, fill out the application on our website. Have your son, daughter, because sometimes it's a mother. Hey, I'd really like my son, and I get this a lot. Hey, I'd really like my son to work at your company. Ron, I know you'll make a man. I know you'll work him and make a man out of my son. And there was even a time where a person told their son that if he stuck it out with me, made it through the summer, he'd buy him a brand new car, because he was that confident, and Ron would make a real man out of him. And yeah, so that's the thing. You want to build up a team and a culture where people just want to be around you. you know. And one of the ways that I do that is not to be petty. Don't be petty. Only make a big deal out about things that are meant to be a big deal of. Don't, if someone left something small in a work truck, they didn't do something, let it go.
Mm-hmm.
Let it go. There's no reason to get angry and chew their butt out or none of that. Just let it go. Chew their butt out when it's time to chew their butt out. And there's always a time, there's always a place, but it's not every day. And I think a lot of young entrepreneurs and, you know, especially in our industry, they're unable to get, a lot of people aren't able to get past the 2 or 3 employee mark because they just don't know how to treat employees. They don't have the right temperament to deal with other people. And they also don't understand that we all have different motives in this lifetime. When people are like, hey, I want you to come work for my company because I'm going to pay you great. Well, that might not be everybody's motivation is making great money. Their motivation be like, how am I going to be treated? Am I going to be appreciated at the end of the day? Am I going to get yelled at? And so you have to get the focus off the money and, hey, how am I going to treat these people every single day? You know, and that takes a lot of learning to do. And what happened back in 2014, we went from making 20 grand on a paycheck for the year to 60 grand, 2014, right? And so 60 grand, you know, the business made over 100 grand, but I made 60 grand I could take home and live off. And I'm thinking from 20 grand to 60 grand at this point in my life, I'm like, man, I'm on top of the world. I'm on top of the world. We went from ramen noodles to steaks, right? Now we can actually pay all the bills when the bill comes in the mail. Pay them, you know, not, oh shoot, what bill we paying? You know that game. We all been there.
I do.
And and that was the year, the 2014. I'm like, man, everybody needs to be on this level. So I went on this how can I help the world mission in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
That's the year I wrote my book, Create Yourself, and I did a lot of work in the community thinking like more people need to get here, right? And so and that was just at $60,000. I was like, man, more people need to be here. And so I started studying. One of the things I want to do is help people change their behavior in their life. So I started studying counseling and this kind of thing and everything. And it's those books that I read back then. And I heard a fact. There's a lot of facts. There's a couple real good facts that changed my life. One fact was this: the top CEOs read 6 to 8 books a month. When I found that out, I'm like, you know what? I have to read more than that. I'm behind. I'm not a top CEO. I need to read. So I started reading book after book after book. And when I wasn't sitting around reading a book, I was in the car, audiobook. When I was at the gym, audiobook. And it's reading through those books and learning was able to teach me how to treat the employees. Even though I was doing it to help others, like in the world, it actually helped me with my employees. And there's no better feeling than being able to help someone with their life. And so that's what I was doing for a while. And throughout all those efforts, it just made me a better employer. You know, it's funny how that worked out, right?
It feels good. It feels good to be able to pay what they call a living wage today. It feels
Right.
good. It really does feel good to be able to see to provide a job and be able to pay your staff and your employees. It's a blessing. It really is. I don't know at some point, you know, that transition, but it happens. It happens. How big is your staff today?
We have 8 employees. We got me and my wife. That's 2. And then plus
Hmm.
we got 8 technicians. And right now, this is a sweet spot in our company, and it's not going to stay like this forever. But my wife is really good on the phones. So
Hmm.
she does sales on the phones, and she does our accounting. And then I do the maintenance, the management of the employees, and the marketing. So it's very balanced out. We both have a heavy workload, and I've been actually ditching my workload uh, and been out sitting in a tent in the backyard hunting. You know, but the thing is, hunting season is only so long.
That's
So you
right.
got to take advantage of that season. You know, any season you're in, you got to take advantage. You know, and a lot of time,
Hmm.
even us as cleaners, we need to think about that. Be like, you know, farmers during harvest season, they're never going to be outside their tractors, right? They need to be in their tractors during harvest season. They got a certain amount of time they have to harvest their crops that they worked on planting all year. So they're not going to be anywhere outside their crops during harvest season. And we have to put that mentality in our mind that every day is harvest season. I have to hustle every single day. It's not whenever I feel like it. It's not whenever I'm in the mood for it. It's every day I have to hustle to the point where I'm gonna make some sales. Ron, they say, Ron, how can you afford all these truck payments you got? Ron, how can you do? Don't you feel like one day the phone's gonna stop ringing? I'm not gonna let it stop ringing. And so some people in the world, they'd be like, man, this guy is crazy. He's literally obsessed with his business. He's a fanatic. And if you want to be truly successful, you have to be a fanatic. You have to be your leader. Nobody's cheering you on but yourself. Every day you got to pick yourself up and say, you know what? Today's a great day and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to get it. Every single day you got to repeat. There's no, even on your worst times when you don't even want to be working, somebody's going to see you somewhere and you're going to have a business card in your wallet because they're going to ask you for a business card, right? And I know in our industry, some people are like, well, I don't do business cards, blah, 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 blah. But guess what? You know, we live in like I said, we live in a Bible Belt, so people are more old fashioned here. So they want the paper, they want the business card, right? And that's one thing we made, QCC. And how it is right now is that QCC's name is bigger than myself. And what I mean by that is customers know QCC that might not know me, right? When you're on the truck and you're on every single job and all this, they know you more than they know your business name. But when you get off the truck, they know your business name more than you. And you want to stay engaged with those people as much as possible because people want to do business with people they like and trust, you know. And so that's another part of the story. What's the story that people are going to tell after you leave their home? Oh, yeah, you know, Ron did a great job, but yeah, something weird about that guy. You know, I've had to fire employees for there's these know-it-all types. Even if they don't know the answer, they'll make up an answer in their head and then speak it as if it was the truth, if it was the gospel. And they wouldn't have a clue what they were really talking about. And those employees are dangerous. And as soon as you can't modify that behavior, right? So as soon as you get one of those in your company, you got to let them go because they will cost you thousands of dollars because they will make up shit and say to the customers that stuff that ain't even true, right? So, but they want to act like they know it. Hey, what do you know, something they don't know about. So let's say, Ron, is nylon polyester better than polyester? Is polyester car better than nylon? Well, it depends. Depends on what you're looking for, what's in your budget, what kind of traffic's in your home, right? You can't just say, oh yeah, polyester is better. Yep, I like polyester better. It's cheaper. You know, you don't say that.
I've seen the type before.
Variables. There's always questions. And that's why I don't like playing the Facebook Messenger game back and forth all day because people ask you a question only to get to another question, then another question. It's like, call me. We can handle all this through a phone call right now. But that's my personality is like, let's jump on the phone. Let's talk about it. Let's not do this message. Because if I had to message all these people I talk with on a daily basis, I would just be staring at my phone all day. And I'm a talkative guy. I want to talk to you. And so I don't like playing that message back and forth. And sometimes, as you know, the messages we receive are scammers trying to scam us. And I don't think the industry, not everybody, you know, worldwide knows about all these scams, but I think the leading source of our email scams are from Google My Business page. And it always starts off like, there's multiple ways they do it, but hey, I'm in the hospital right now, but could you give me a quote for pressure washing? And that leads into, can I pay you now, but can you Western Union me some money back? And what these people are doing is finding service industry people that will process stolen credit cards, and then they will get some money back. So you would be able to process payment, but you're still, it's bad karma.
You're going to have to get the money back, probably.
And I told this guy I was working with back in the day, you know, trying to modify his behavior and counsel with him and stuff. And I told this guy, he got scammed. He was so desperate for money, he took $1,800 from one of these guys.
Oh, man.
And you got to live with that karma. At some point, that's going to come back on you. So no matter how desperate you are, you always want to do the right things. And then the key is don't be in a desperate situation. Don't allow yourself to be there. Work so freaking hard that you don't ever have to be in that desperate situation. I made a video way back in my earlier years, back in 2014. And I said that if you're the man of the household and you have children, you don't have the right to watch TV without $5,000 in your bank account.
Mm.
Go to work and make more money. Pick up another shift. Do whatever you got to do. Get more money in the bank, because your water heater will break. Your furnace will break. Your transmission will break. And if you don't have that money put up for that situation, then you're letting your family down. And you're going to be in that desperate situation. And we all know people that stay in this desperate situation, and you want to get the hell out of that danger zone. Put the money in your bank. And I'm not sure what goes on in people's minds where, they always want to be in those desperate. I don't know that they want to be there, but they're not willing to fight hard enough to get out of that poverty level. That leads me to another thing about the second one-liner that changed my life was this. 76% of Americans don't even have $500 in their bank account.
That's sad.
So what's that tell you? That tells you that, and I broke it down to 8%, right? So that means that only 24% of people in America can afford to hire you to begin with. So if I live in a county like I do, and there's only 110,000 population, that means only 24,000 people, 25,000 people have the potential money to be able to hire me. Out of those 25,000 people, some people are brand loyal to a cousin that is in the industry. Some people, like, more farmer type people, they have all the money, but they're hardcore do-it-yourselfers, right?
Yeah.
So you got a percentage of people that can afford to hire you, but they're do-it-yourselfers. They're not going to hire you. And so what I'd like to say is you got about 8% left. That's your chunk of the pie. You have to work your butt off to get that 8% of that pie. And if you hustle hard enough, you can maybe get 9%, 10%. But at the end of the day, you're limited to this certain percentage. So that means you got to treat every single customer like the gold they are. Every single phone call that comes into you, you have to treat them like gold. That's gold, because they're only 8% of the people in town that could actually afford to hire you. So when I heard that one statistic about 76% of people don't even have $500 in their bank account, I heard that and I was like, bingo, changed my life forever.
Ooh, that's great advice. That is really good advice. And a lot of us, in like saying in the service industry, we do need to start treating our customers like gold. Residential, commercial, potential clients, we do need to treat them like gold. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Really good perspective. And one I'd like to ask you is your website, and I think you might have touched on it. Is it? I'm very sure it's professionally done. If you could give us some kind of details on that on your website.
So, because we got to talk about this first.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be forever in debt to a man named Grant Cardone, right? So Grant Cardone.
I enjoy listening to him. I follow him as well.
I bought his Cardone University, and inside the university, there's 55.
I think I see the 10X in the back behind you.
Got it. I mean, I can't downplay the effect he had on my life, because here's where we're at. So when I subscribed to his university in 2015, we were at maybe $100,000 income for the year, a little more than 100,000, right? And so he says you got to 10X it, right? And now we're a little over $1 million. That's 10 times, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So how you're going to get there is you have to fill up your pipeline, right? Everything's a sale. Everything's a pipeline. And what you have to do is learn how to sell, learn how to market, and you have to know everything. And what I mean by that is the one thing he taught me that I'll never forget is that you have to agree with people. If they say, hey, Ron, your price is too high, I say, you're absolutely right. My price is too high. Just agree with them, right? And then you get on the subject like, I actually think the price of gas is too high. I think eggs are too high. I think the price of the chemicals I need to use to clean your situation is too high. You're right, it is too high. And if I could change all those other things, I could lower my price. But unfortunately, I'm just a carpet cleaner here to clean your carpet. And this is the price we have to charge you to do business and stay in business. And then now they feel good. It's all about making them feel good. You don't argue with them. Always agree. And so on top of the always agreeing, he broke one thing down that stuck with me forever. People believe what they see on a piece of paper to a certain level, right?
Mm-hmm.
They believe words out of your mouth even on a lower level, but they believe a video to a whole nother level. Wherever they see that video at, whether it's be on their TV, whether it's on their smartphone, whether it's on a tablet or their computer, they believe that video more than a piece of paper, more than words out of your mouth. Now, with knowing that, you could use that for your marketing. So if you go to my website, you'll notice a small video on every service we offer.
I noticed that.
So you got to study sales psychology. Once you know sales psychology, you could implement it in everything you do. And one thing I used to do, and I do it occasionally when needed, is after talking with a prospect, I would hold up my phone and give them a video selfie. I would just say, hey, this is Ron with QCC. It was a pleasure being in your home today. I look forward to serving you with greatness real soon. And then text it to them. If you keep that video under 30 seconds, you could text it to a iPhone or Android, don't matter. Just it'll pop up straight to their phone. Now, with some of our services, let's say air duct cleaning, for example, a lot of people aren't familiar with the air duct cleaning process.
Mm-hmm.
So we made a video. I forget what year it was, maybe 2020, 2019. And if someone called in and wanted a price and they didn't book, they get sent the video. So if they got an iPhone, we'll send it straight from our iPhone, straight to their iPhone and pop up on their phone, boom. If they got an Android, we'll send them a link to YouTube and send it straight to their phone. Now, here's what that does. When you tell a prospect, hey, Mr. Prospect, what I'm going to do for you as soon as I get off phone with you, I'm going to send you a video of, and inside the video is when I talk about our air duct cleaning process. Now, you actually send them the video and you do what you say you're going to do and develop that trust. And so there's so many contractors that make these promises and things and that, and then they don't follow up. So, hey, man, this guy sent me the video. Like he said he was going to send the video. The video's phenomenal. I'm going to book. And literally, sometimes when my wife sends the video, they'll call back in 5 minutes and book. Because now they know. Now they know what equipment you're using. They know the process. They're familiar. Now they got a better understanding. They called another company, but guess what? The other company didn't send a video. So they chose us over the video, right? And that's so video in your business is super, super duper important. And I know a lot of guys are afraid to make videos. They're self-conscious. And even though I've taken videos with people that come here for training and they did it good on one take, and I don't know why they're nervous, but something inside it makes them nervous. And that's one thing I have been blessed with, the gift is I'm never nervous. I'll talk to anybody anywhere at any time. When my son Mike was being born in the hospital, I had business cards in my pocket, and every nurse that walked by got a business card. Hey, I'll clean your carpet. And while Mike's mom was embarrassed about it, and like, what are you doing that, right? We still clean for them nurses today. We're still cleaning for those nurses. Why would you be? You're simply offering what you do. Why be embarrassed about that?
Exactly.
Everywhere you go, you need to let as many people know what you do as possible. And the old saying is, closed mouths don't get fed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you can open your mouth, talk to more people. The more people you talk to, the more money you can make. And that's with any industry, but especially in the service industry.
Man, that is awesome, man. That is awesome. I'm over here taking notes. So. That is awesome, man. And like I said, your website, and I hope our listeners will go check it out. Phenomenal website. And I noticed that in every hitting that you have the videos. Never saw that before. So that is really awesome. What other marketing tips, if you can give us, is not proprietary?
So I'll tell people like this. I can't spill all the beans, right?
Okay.
Because people do come fly into town, and I do teach them marketing, and then they pay for that, right? So I
Hmm.
don't like to give out everything for free. But what I will tell you is that yard signs are overlooked, and
Okay.
we started putting out yard signs in 2018. And every single job got a yard sign, got a yard sign, got a yard sign. Next thing you know, everybody's driving around town and they're seeing your sign everywhere. And they start thinking like, well, this guy's got to be good. He's everywhere. Now you got 4 or 5 trucks on the road and they start seeing your trucks everywhere. And there's this problem. Here's the problem with our industry is this, and nobody talks about it because there's some people that just don't want to help people marketing. They don't want to train their competition. I'm literally working with a guy 20 minutes from me, training him, teaching him everything that I know because you know what? In my mind, no one's going to outwork me. No one's going to out hustle me. I'll teach him all day long. He's not going to be able to catch up, right? I have to
That's
stay
right.
leap years ahead by how hard I hustle every single day. And so um, I'll spill the beans, but there's this thing. Once you get past the 2 or 3 employee mark, and like we talked about, most
Mhm.
people don't make it past that mark. If you can make it past that 2 or 3 employee mark, and you got 4 or 5 employees, that 4 or 5 employee range, everything gets easier. Everything gets so easier. Now you got 4 or 5 trucks running around the town every single day. So everywhere people goes, they do see your trucks. They see your signs everywhere. They see your trucks everywhere. And now you got, man, these guys are everywhere. They gotta be good. I'm gonna call them. Well, who are you gonna call for air duct cleaning? Well, I see this QCC air duct cleaning truck every single day. Of course, I'm gonna call them. So now your marketing, you don't have to spend all this money on Google ads and Facebook ads and all this stuff because it all does itself for you if you
Mm.
can just make it to that point, right? So what I'm saying is, if you get to the 4 to 5 truck air part, you can get to the 10 truck part very easily because it all this momentum starts to build up in your business. And it's like this thing that cannot be stopped or controlled or contained as long as you got the right systems in place. And one of them systems is back to the website is you got to have that application page on there, the now hiring page on there, because you constantly want to hire people. You need more people. You know,
Mhm.
the people that aren't serving your company well, get them out, find them out who they are, and bring in people that will serve your company better. And once you get past that 2 or 3 hump, when you're in that 2 or 3 zone, I'll call it the danger zone.
Mhm.
Employees think their mentality is different than when you have a 10-person team, right? So
Mhm.
2-person team, their mentality is like, oh, well, Ron's making all the money. We're making Ron rich and blah, blah, blah. They see you pulling in $2,000 or $3,000 a day off that truck and then the next truck, and they're like, Ron's getting rich off me, blah, blah. If it wasn't for me, and I've had employees say this to me, if it wasn't for me, Ron would be homeless. Ron wouldn't have a business if it wasn't for me. They get this
Same
mentality.
here.
You're in the 2 or 3 employee zone, the danger zone. They get these mentalities, but when you get to the 4 or 5 employee mark, it's hard for one person to think that way, right? When you get to the
Mm.
10 employee mark, it's hard for 10 employees to think that way. They can't think like that because there's so many more people. So all
Mhm.
that jazz goes away. So when I say that everything, it's like magic happens when you get to the 4 or 5 employee mark. It's marketing, it's employees, everything changes. You just have to get to that point and everything will be a little easier for you. Now, when I say things will be easier for you, um, there's stuff that grows organically that wouldn't grow organically when you're 2 or 3 truck, when you're in the danger zone. However, people say that there's more money, there's more challenges, there's more money, there's more problems.
Oh
And
yeah.
when you're doing more jobs, of course you're gonna have, problems are just a numbers game, right? So if you're doing 40 jobs in a month, you might have 1 or 2 problems. If you're doing 40 jobs in a week, you're gonna have 1 or 2 problems per week. They're gonna be problem customers where their expectations, even though you try to manage them properly, they weren't managed right, and they're not happy. And so, in the course, we refund customers here and there when necessary. Um, it's one of those things that you have to make it right with a customer. Sometimes employees do make mistakes and you have to pay the price. So when they say more
Mhm.
money, more problems, it's just everything increases, including the problems. It's not that the money itself creates more problems, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
just you're on a higher scale, you're playing at a higher level. And if you get good at handling problems, like one thing I learned um, is don't hide from your problems. Face them head on. Fix it today. Fix it today because it's gonna grow and get worse. Now, what happens is I made this one video and it talked about work, family, life, and contribution. And out of these four categories, you're only allowed to have one. In my ideology, you're only allowed to have one out of whack. So your family life, your fun life, and this happens more with women than men, but their family life becomes their fun life, and they don't do anything that they do have for themselves, their own personal hobby. A lot of mothers, even as men, we get so tied up with work and our kids and our family that we don't do nothing. We don't have a hobby outside of that, and it feels good to have hobbies. And then the contribution. How are you making the world a better place? You have to have that category souped up because at some point, one of these categories are going to fail you. And if you don't have your other categories souped up, you're going to be in a state of depression. And some guys and some people, they don't get out of that state of depression. They stay there. They call it stuck in a rut, right? I'm stuck in a rut. I'm in funk. Well, how can we get you out of the funk? And the problem is so many times they go down this deep, dark rabbit hole of life that it's finances, it's their marriage, it's everything is fucked up at that point, and they have to go through so much to get themselves out of that, and it becomes extremely difficult. And one thing I can say for sure is that when my son died in 2019, that I did have all these categories filled up in my life.
To hear that.
No, it happens. And if I didn't have all these other categories good in my life, I would have lost everything back in 2019. I didn't struggle financially in 2019, but there was a lot of business. I still had a role in my company, and there was a lot of business that, I was supposed to go do this estimate, go do this estimate. Those estimates didn't get done that year. My head was crazy, right? And so I did lose a lot of business, but I had my money saved up. I wasn't a big spender. I had things in order to where I didn't lose it all. I mean, it could have been that easy. If I didn't have these other categories in place, it would have been an ugly year. So that particular year was just ugly for me. I was drinking heavily. I had suicidal thoughts. It was a bad year. And I was able to fight out of that. And then 2020 came along, COVID. And in March 16th, it's like 9/11 for anybody. Well, for us, right? For me, March 16th is a day. Hey, Ron, I need to cancel my appointment. Ron, hey, I need to cancel my appointment. Ron, I need to cancel my appointment. I'm like, holy crap, right? And so I'm like, what are we gonna do? And I told my wife, I'm like, we're gonna buy lawnmowers and we're gonna mow grass again. So we spent 30 grand. And the wife at first, I'm spending all this money. She's at first like paranoid. And I'm like, listen, it'll be all right. It's the beginning of the mowing season. We'll be all right. So in 2019, we ended the year with about $335,000 mark, right? Now, 2020, COVID showed its ugly face, and we still at $535,000 mark, right? We still seen growth, but we had to hustle. Now, I'm not kidding you when I tell you this, but we didn't turn down any single kind of job. You called me with anything, we were doing it during COVID. We were taking any job. One particular job we did was it was a motor remediation job, and we took out 16 sheets of drywall out of this basement, and we put back 16 sheets of drywall. We mudded it, we taped it, we painted it, we put in a new floor, we put in new vanity, we put in a whole new bathroom, and that job was like $30,000, and that was a beautiful job. Really helped out our situation during COVID. And normally, like today, I want to do all that. We would do the motor remediation part, and we would tear out everything, and we would walk away, something like that. We want to do all that. But during COVID, you got to know when to go hard, when to scale back. And so I didn't turn down any single job. And that's the only way we really made it through with those kind of numbers. Even though the profits were down because we were doing the grass mowing, some yards we would mow and we would get paid $60 for. Now, here's the situation. The homeowner thinks they're paying you a lot, $60 to mow the grass. Meanwhile, you have a half-hour drive time to the yard, and then a half-hour drive time back, and then the job takes 2.5 hours. When it's all said and done, you put out another $60.
Mm.
So it's just basically you're paying employees at that point. Now, where we made the bread and butter was doing landscaping jobs. We would make a little bit more profit off that. But for the grass mowing in itself, if we did 100K in grass mowing, we probably made $5,000 in profit.
Oh,
That's
wow.
how the margins are, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so that's why as soon as COVID was over, sold the mowers. We're back to regular business now. We're not doing this, right? And so the one thing we stayed with that that happened because of COVID was the snow plowing. And snow plowing, we started because of COVID. We did it that year, and then we've been doing it every year since. And we're gonna keep it for now. I really don't know how profitable that is after paying everybody. Sometimes you could just see the big picture and hey, we're profitable. Did we actually make
Mm-hmm.
profit in snow plowing? I don't know. I hope so. But if I just know in my particular snow plow truck, we are profitable because I freaking keep track of that. And we hustle. In my plow truck, when I'm out there, we get to the one job to the next, quick as possible, boom, 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 and we get it done. And there's a little profit to be made. But is it profitable enough to be like every night in the middle of the night when you go up to use a bathroom, you got to look outside. Do I need to go to work at 4 a.m? And then it puts stress on the guys, like they have to be to work at 4 a.m. And
Yeah.
so it's not the most ideal situation. So I'm not exactly sure how long we're going to be doing it. And like, this isn't a service we market at all because we already got a full route. We probably got too many customers when it comes to that. But I have a hard time saying no to money. So
Hey, man.
we I told my wife last night, I did make the mark. So I said, we can't plow for anyone else, period. And then sure enough, 2 people called in this morning, wanted plowing done, and we went out and did it. But what happened this morning, it doesn't usually happen, is only a handful of our accounts got snow this morning. So not like the whole county got snow. There were different areas in town that got snow and some didn't. So we didn't have to plow everybody today, which was beautiful. Otherwise, we'd be in a work truck. I'd be in the work truck right now with this podcast, and we talked about that last night.
Yes, I remember. Hey, like I said, the show doesn't stop. It doesn't
Right.
stop. Yeah, the show doesn't stop. If you would share maybe 3 books that's helped you in your business. And I see the 10X behind you. You mentioned Cardone.
Another guy that really changed things for me was Stephen
Hmm.
Covey. Stephen Covey taught me that you didn't have to react to everything that happened, right?
Mm.
So you have something that happens, and they call that the stimulus, and then you have a response, or you have a reaction. And it's when you create a gap between the stimulus and your response, now you can control that response. But most people live in such a reaction mode that they don't get to control the response, right?
Mm.
So if you said, hey Ron, what do you think about Hillary Clinton? And I was like, let me think about Hillary Clinton. I was like, you know what, I don't really know too much about Hillary Clinton. I don't have I don't know her. I don't know anything.
Diffuser.
Or a reaction could be like, well, I heard bad things about her. She's a B. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know. I can't speak on that. There was in a Kevin Gates song, he said,
Mhm.
never speak ill on any man. And I take that to heart.
That's right.
You never speak ill on anybody. And there's a time and a place for it. And it's
Hmm.
not all the time and it's not all the place. Most of the time, you want to go out making positive deposits into your people of influence and everywhere you go. And when you complain about somebody, you're not making that deposit, you're making a withdrawal. And so one of the things my mentor taught me was that you want to make more deposits into people than withdrawals.
Mm.
And so most people walk around in poverty all the time because they take from people. Whether they take from you physically, emotionally, or mentally, there's takers in life. And some people take
Yeah.
from all 3 categories, and they just take and they take and they take and they take and they take. And then they're always in this poverty mindset and poverty, financially, because of it. They're not making anybody's. They're so, it's all about me, that they can never get out of that. And so, Stephen Covey was that. There will ever forever be a place in my heart for Joe Osteen, even though he
Amen.
gets ridiculed by everybody, wants to hate on good old Joe. But
I'm a fan. I'm a fan of Joe.
Joe wrote a book, or even if it was a ghostwriter, I don't know if he writes his books. He might have ghostwriters, but it don't matter. He published a book called How to Make Every Day a Friday. And I bought the book and I read it and I'm like, you know what? These are good things. And one of the things I got out of that book is you can't control people, but you can only control how you react or respond to people. Same thing that was the Stephen Covey was talking about. And that's a principle that definitely changed my life. And it changed the way that I talk to my baby's mother, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she would get to the point where she would always call me hostile, and if I didn't feed into that energy, she would even get more mad, right? Why aren't you saying anything? I got nothing to say to you. What do you want me to say? You want me to get on your energy level and just get angry and start swearing and all this stuff? I don't have to respond to you, and it took a while. I think it was 2000. It was in that 2014 era when we were split up for quite a few years. And I finally had to tell her, like, look, we are not together. You can't talk to me like this anymore. Again, this woman haunted me a lot of years of my life. I was behind on child support. I was living in my office. And there were times where she wouldn't let me leave her house with the children unless I had a receipt from the courthouse for child support. And I get it, but it's like, look, I'll be 100% honest in this video. This isn't a proud moment, but this is what happened to me. Is there were times I didn't pick up my children. There were weeks I didn't pick up my children just so I didn't have to deal with her. That's not something I'm proud of. But dealing with her, with some of these women get so freaking nasty, and it's horrible. You have bad chemistry with people, and that's why I like, I tried to stick it out with her for the first children. We had the first child together, and I'm like, let's get back together, let's do this. And then we never got along. We're different people, right? We never got along. Let's stick it out for the kid, and then another kid came, right? And so let's stick it out for two kids. And then we never got along, always fought. And then even when we broke up, she was always trying to control me, manipulate me. And it was a horrible thing. But that was, like I said, you have to get out of that poverty. I felt so good paying her off on child support, and I was out of that. And, they say, like, well, life isn't about money, but money makes things better. Like, I don't have this my head anymore. I don't have any child support, problems, So money just fixes things. It doesn't fix everything. It doesn't really make you happy, but it gets you out of situations. And it provides situations that you couldn't be involved in if you didn't have the money. For example, recently went to a conference in Atlanta. It cost me about $4,000. And I sat at this table with these two guys I didn't know. And there was this one guy there, and he was telling all these hunting stories. And, I was sitting there and I'm thinking in my head, like, damn, I don't have a freaking hunting story. I don't have a hunting story. This man's got all these hunting stories. I'm like, I gotta get a hunting story. So when hunting season started, I'm like, I gotta go. So I put my time in, and finally I got me a deer. And I'm like, now I got a story to tell. And when we first bought this house last September, I was looking on the internet to buy a deer head to hang on the wall, right? Because if you came out here, it kind of fits the theme of the house. And then I was thinking about, I'm like, no, I can't buy one. It's got to be my own, right? So here that I got, it takes 10 to 12 months from the taxidermy to get it back. So, but maybe by next Christmas, it'll be hanging on the wall by the fireplace. And so now I got a deer story. Now I got a hunting story. And when you, for me, it was like something happened when I turned 40. I'm 42 now. And when I turned 40, it was like, oh shit, you're not going to live forever. You got to start enjoying life now. You got to start doing things for you now. And Um, I had intentions on buying a sports car next year, and
Mm-hmm.
instead of buying a sports car, there's a piece of property we're gonna buy. My family likes to go to Indiana Beach during the summer at this amusement park, so we plan on buying a hunting property down there with maybe a little house on it, and then they would go down there during the summer, and during the winter I would go down there and hunt. And so recreational property, and I think I'm more turned on by that than the sports car. And who's to
That's
say
awesome.
something I might be able to swing both next year, but I've always
Mm-hmm.
been good at managing my money properly and not overspending. Even this year, I test drove about 10 trucks, 10 different vehicles, and I wanted to buy something else other than a pickup truck. But I said, hey, if one of my trucks get broke down and stay in the shop for an extended period of time, we need another truck to put into action. So I wound up buying another pickup truck, but it's like, how many years is this pattern going to keep going, right? And so maybe now I can keep that pickup truck as my daily driving truck. And then,
Mm-hmm.
I think a sports car does fit well in the mix next year. So we'll see what the future holds. But I do, look, for me personally, when I hit that 40 mark, it was just, um, hey, you get to that point where like, I'm not gonna live forever. I need to enjoy life now.
Yeah.
And as you get older, as you age, things do start happening. I remember I was at the grocery store with my wife, and I'm squinting at these ingredients on stuff. I'm trying to figure out what's in it, and I'm squinting, and I'm like, are they making this packaging real small nowadays, or what? And she's like, well, try some reader glasses. So I tried that, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. I could actually see my phone without doing one of these. And then I just broke down and went to the eye doctor. And so I got these. So these are actually bifocals. So on the
Mm-hmm.
top, they're like regular lenses, but on the bottom, they're like bifocals. And then there's no line in them. And I bought a pair of each because the doctor said that um, she's like, people prefer different ones. So the ones with the lines in them, I didn't particularly like, but these I like because the ones in the line, you got to like look down and through, and who really wants to do all that? So these, it's got a wider range of things you could look through. But so yeah, now 40 years old, need glasses, right? Things, blood pressure, stuff like this, and recently I quit drinking to trying to get better on my health, and I got to lose this weight, and it's not gonna happen
Mm-hmm.
with alcohol, right? So I
Yeah.
think I'm in week 10 or 11. I don't know. I've been trying to keep track and posting progress, but even we're having a Christmas party for the team with the open bar, and my wife asked me repeatedly, she's like, "You gonna be all right?" I'm like, "I'm all right. I'm committed to dropping
Mm-hmm.
this weight. I'm not going to do alcohol. I'm not going to say I'm not going to do alcohol forever. But until I get to where I really need to be health wise, I'm not going to touch that stuff because it's poison. And it might turn out that I don't drink forever. I don't know. I'm not going to make that judgment call today, but I know that I'm not going to drink it till I drop the appropriate amount of weight that I need to be healthier. So,
Amen. Discipline. I think
right.
that separates a lot of us as entrepreneurs is discipline, and I need to discipline myself in that area. But yeah, discipline. Uh,
Hey,
and
so we got about 10 more minutes and I got to have lunch.
okay, thank
Uh,
you.
what do we want to hammer out before I gotta go?
If you would, lastly, if you would, any kind of advice for maybe some of the youth or someone that's thinking about starting their own business, or just some good helpful advice, some other advice that you may have, and everything you said so far has been on point.
Um, phew. See, I don't really like to give advice when I think of youth. You know,
Hmm.
it's hard to give advice to youth because they're not hearing it. They're not
Yeah.
hearing from you, no matter what. Like I've talking at juvenile centers and such, and they're not hearing it. They're under the impression, and again, I wrote this in a chapter in my book. I talked about it. Is you think the whole world's out to get you, the whole world.
Mhm.
And my family put this stuff in my brain that is very unhealthy for anybody. and it happens more than you think about. One of the things, unhealthy patterns, they told me is like, you better eat all your food off your plate.
Uh-huh.
Well, no wonder why I'm overweight. Just yesterday I was eating a cheeseburger and I didn't finish it, and I had to fight with that ideology in my head. I'm like, I'm full. I don't need to eat no more. Rob, but you paid $20 for that plate. It don't matter. If I don't need to eat the whole burger and I'm full, let me not finish that burger. I could take it home or I could just leave it there. It doesn't matter. Or you better eat all that. There's starving children in the world.
Yeah.
Hey, I can't do nothing about that today. By me eating all the food, I'm gonna gain weight. For the weight gainers of the world, right? There's people that could eat whatever and they stay skinny, but
Mhm.
then there's the weight gainers of the world. And so, when you're full, you stop eating. Stop. And when you're full, you could feel it.
Yeah.
There was a time when I was eating super clean, and I haven't even been there recently, but let's say you go to Buffalo Wild Wings, right? And their chicken wings taste so good because of all that sauce they put on it. Now,
Yeah.
it's not the chicken that's bad for you, right? It's
Yeah.
all that sauce
No.
they put on it, got sugar and all this
Sugar.
stuff in
Yeah.
it. And if you eat, I swear it's like the third or fourth wing, you could feel a sugar spike in your body.
Mm.
That's when you should pull away and say, hey, I'm done eating these. But you ordered 8, right? So you can these taste so good, man. I'm gonna dip these in this ranch, right? Dip
Yeah.
this sugar into more sugar,
Double dip it.
and then you're good, right? And then that's horrible, right? So luckily I haven't done that recently, and probably the main reason why is our local Buffalo Wild Wings, they're putting up a new building, so they're currently not in business. But that's how you could feel the sugar in the moment we eating those type of Buffalo Wild Wings, eating whatever they put in their sauces. I don't know their ingredients, but I just know that at the end of the day, somewhere there's a lot of sugar.
A lot of sugar in it.
Just like when you drink the beer, you're feeling on top of the world, man. This beer is so good. All that sugar, right?
Yeah.
And it's not good for you. Tastes
That's
good
right.
going down, but it's not good for you. And so, anyways, back to giving advice to the youth would be, don't make permanent decisions on temporary situations, right? We all
Mm.
have a bad temporary situation, and if you make a permanent decision, and some of them permanent decisions are taking a life, some of them decisions are, doing anything criminal activity to try to advance in your life. And unfortunately, I used to try to talk to people and tell them, like, look, most people think that everybody knows right from wrong. And I'm telling you from experience, when you grown up in such a shitty fucking life, you don't know right from wrong. You're like, fuck, my parents beat the fuck out of me, right?
Yeah.
I live in this roach and mouse infested house, horrible situation. My home life is fucked. Like, why should I behave in school? Like, life fucking sucks, right?
Yeah.
So you go everywhere you go, everything is shitty, but you're expected to be this well-mannered, proper kid that behaves in school. And then it's a cycle, right? Because the counselor is like, what's wrong with you, right? And then your parents are like, what's wrong with this kid? And how you act this way? And it's like, motherfucker, you the reason I act this way.
Right.
You are badass fucking parents. You guys fight every fucking night. You can't afford to buy me new shit, but you always got cigarettes and beer, right? And the reason I'm so passionate about this is because it happened to me, and I'm not a unique story. This happens every fucking day to our kids, the youth.
It does.
I think
It
youth.
does.
Some kids getting beat the fuck up by a dad, an adopted dad. He like literally beat up. It took me till I was 15. One time, this man tried to put his hands on me, and I knew at 15 I was stronger than him. So I just grabbed him and shoved him against a wall and said, this is going to stop today. But before that, there were days I would fake cry for the shit to stop. And they got a nerve to tell the school system, I don't know why he's acting out like this. I don't know why he's getting in fights at school. Well, how about y'all bully me at home? I go to school, get bullied. Our house stunk so bad when I was in school. Kids called me stinky. Well, no matter how much I showered, I couldn't get the stench of my house off of me. We would have to check the bottom of our shoes for dog crap after we left the house.
Mm.
After we got outside, let me see if I got shit on my feet. You could walk by from the street to our house and smell how this motherfucking house stunk. And so years I got bullied, hey, stinky, stinky, and all this shit. And so when I get in fights in school, why? Well, I'm getting picked on every day. And the parents act clueless, the counselors act clueless. I think some of the teachers just was like, I'm not getting involved in that shit, right? They knew
Right.
what the situation was. They knew it was a fucked up situation. But everybody's like, well, what's wrong with this kid? Mother, look at this situation. You know? And so when I went to the juvenile detention center, man, I was supposed to be there for 3 months, and I was there 6 months because it was better than being at home.
Mm. That says something. It says a lot.
So unfortunately, like we were talking about, that's not a unique situation. This shit happens. And then we look at these children and say, what the fuck's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? When you grow up in an environment like that, you're going to act out. So if I had to give advice to the youth and I didn't know them, I say, look, there's things will get better if you make them better. You have the power to make things better. And what I didn't know, and I did play a victim part of my whole life, was like, you know, again, back to the programming, my parents programmed me that it's a dog-eat-dog world. You know, it was funny that they would scam people, but then they would call the people scammers. Like still to this day, there was a time from 2014 to 2016, and I was doing group counseling with our local court system. So if somebody got in trouble and they needed anger management, they would come see me, do group counseling with me. And it was you got to deprogram people during this group counseling, right? And all their baggage came from childhood's drama that they never dealt with, and we'd have to go deep into this stuff. And I came up with the 3 W's of character, right? So worked real closely with this particular judge and was like, hey, can these guys get community service hours by coming to see my speeches at the library? She's like, Ron, what's your curriculum? I'm like, curriculum? I don't have curriculum, baby. I got charisma. No. So I made a curriculum for 3 W's of character. They just want to see something, right?
Yeah.
And so it was 3 powerful questions. Who are you? What do you want? And why? And if you ask 10 people, the next 10 people that you run into, those 3 questions, most of them aren't going to be able to answer those 3 questions. And they're going to be like, nobody ever asked me those 3 questions. So back to the youth, you got to figure that out. What do you want to be? You don't want to be the police. You want to be the police officer? Nowadays, police career is not desirable. You know, you have to be damn near psychotic to want to be a police officer. But there was a time in life where people respected cops, and a lot of young children want to be a police officer.
Yep.
Firefighter. You know, no one ever said they want to be a carpet cleaner, right? And so I would tell the youth that. I would say, look, you could make anything happen that you want to make happen. And that's why I wrote the book, Create Yourself, because you're only responsible for yourself. You're not responsible for your parents. You're not responsible for anybody else, but you could control and you could change yourself. And when that happens and the whole world sees you change and everything, it's like magic. It's like this magical moment. When you truly find out who you want, what you want, and who you want to be in life, and you know the core principles that you stand and focus on in your life, it's like the magic happens. And so that's where a lot of these kids, they're in a situation where it's a crisis situation. It's real life crisis and trauma that they're going through every single day of their life. And it's hard to get them to the point. But I believe that if there was one thing I could ask any child that I could talk to, is like, what do you want in life and who you want to be, and then go from there. And I wouldn't give them advice. I would just ask them those questions.
That's great. Ron, I thank you for your time, man. I really do. If you would, just before you leave, you would tell them just how if someone watching that's in your area, or how they can find your book and your websites, if you just give that last information.
Yeah, so if you want to buy the book, it's on Amazon. It's Create Yourself by Ron Papke. And If someone wanted to reach out and talk to me, they can call me directly on my cell phone at 219-561-1686. And like I said, I drive a lot, so I'm available for phone calls, but I don't play the text message game or the Facebook message game that well. If you ask me a question on Facebook, I'm gonna give you a short answer. And most time it's just call me, because someone asks for advice and I don't know. Hey, Ron, what equipment do you recommend? Well, what's your budget? We got to have a whole conversation. What's your game plan? Are you a good salesman? There's a lot of things. You just can't go out giving out advice until you have more intel. So if someone needed some intel, some inspiration, guided down the right path, they could call me, and I'll be more than happy to talk to them.
Man, thank you so much, brother, for your time. Bless you, and looking forward to a second interview in the future, possibly, hopefully.
All right, my man. You have a wonderful day.
You too. Stay blessed, Ron. Have a good one.
All right, thank you, sir.
Bye.